Not every storm is a punishment. Not everyone who is suffering is being punished. Some are being prepared. And I know that sentence is difficult to receive when you are in the middle of the hardest season of your life, when the loss is real, when the pain is physical, when you have done everything right and the wrong things keep happening anyway, and somewhere in the quiet of your most honest moments, a question rises that you are almost afraid to ask out loud. What did I do to deserve this? I am here to tell you with everything I am able to bring to this conversation that the answer to that question is not what you think it is. The suffering you are carrying right now is not a verdict on your worth. It is not a punishment for your failures. It is not evidence that you have been forgotten, abandoned, or written off by the force that governs this universe. It is a preparation. And in the next several minutes, I'm going to show you through psychology, through neuroscience, through the documented lives of the most impactful human beings who ever lived exactly what the difference is between suffering that punishes and suffering that prepares, and more importantly, how to know which one you are in. Stay with me, because this is the most important thing you will hear this year. What this kind of suffering feels like. Let me describe something, and I want you to tell me if this is accurate. You are not suffering because of something obvious. You are not suffering because of a clear mistake you made or a clear consequence you earned. You are suffering in the way that is hardest to explain to other people, the way that looks fine from the outside, the way that does not have a simple cause and therefore does not have a simple solution. You are suffering from the accumulation of things that should not have happened to someone who was trying as hard as you were trying. The loss that came without warning. The relationship that ended when you had done everything right. The health that changed when you had been careful. The career that collapsed when you had been faithful. The door that closed when you had prepared better than anyone. And the cruelest part of this kind of suffering, the part that makes it uniquely heavy, is the silence around it. Because when suffering has an obvious cause, the world knows how to respond. It brings casseroles, it sends cards, it shows up with the language of condolence that society has prepared for visible loss. But when your suffering is the quiet kind, the invisible kind, the kind that lives in the gap between who you are and where you are, the world does not know what to do with it, and so it does nothing, and you carry it alone. And in the carrying of it alone, a story begins to form. A story that says the suffering is a sign, a message, a verdict from something larger than yourself about what you deserve and what you do not. I am here to challenge that story with everything I have, because that story is not the truth. Here is the question that changes everything, and I want you to sit with it before we go any further. What if your suffering is not about what you did wrong? What if it is about what you are being made capable of? Because those are two completely different stories, and which story you believe determines everything about what this season produces in you. The psychology. Two kinds of suffering. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps and spent the rest of his life studying the psychology of human suffering, made a distinction that I believe is the most important psychological insight of the 20th century. He said that suffering in itself is neither meaningful nor meaningless. What determines whether suffering destroys a person or develops them is not the suffering itself. It is the framework the person brings to the suffering, the meaning they are able or unable to construct around it. Frankl studied thousands of people who endured the same objective conditions of suffering in the camps, same deprivation, same loss, same daily proximity to death, and what he found was a clear, documented, consistent divergence in outcome. The people who survived not just physically but psychologically, the ones who came out with their humanity and their sense of purpose intact, were the ones who were able to find a framework for their suffering that gave it a direction, not a justification, not an explanation. A direction. They were able to say, even in the worst conditions imaginable, this suffering is moving towards something. I do not yet know what, but it is moving towards something rather than simply happening to me. The people who did not survive psychologically, who came out broken in ways that never healed, were the ones for whom the suffering was simply random. simply cruel, simply evidence of a universe that did not care whether they existed or not. Same suffering, two completely different frameworks, two completely different outcomes. What Frankl's research reveals about your situation right now, in this specific season, is this. The suffering itself is not the determining factor. The framework you bring to it is, and the framework I am offering you today, the one that the evidence of psychology, neuroscience, and human history consistently supports, is this. Not everyone who suffers is being punished. Some are being prepared. Think about the strongest person you know, not the most comfortable person, the strongest. Now think about what they went through to become that. I am willing to bet that the strength you most admire in them was not given to them. It was built in them by exactly the kind of suffering you are carrying right now. The historical pattern. The ones who were prepared through pain. Let me give you documented historical evidence, not stories designed to inspire, but recorded facts about real people. Joseph, the biblical figure, was sold into slavery by his own brothers at 17 years old, falsely accused and imprisoned for years, forgotten by the people he helped. By any external measure, his suffering was not punishment for wrongdoing. He had done nothing wrong. His suffering was preparation. Every year in the pit, every year in the prison, was building in him the specific wisdom, the specific resilience, the specific depth of character that would later allow him to save an entire civilization from famine. The suffering did not make sense until it did. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison for standing for justice. 27 years. By any measure, this was not punishment for wrongdoing. It was suffering imposed on a man whose only crime was refusing to accept injustice. Those 27 years did not break him. They refined him. They built in him a quality of patience, perspective, and moral authority that no comfortable life could have produced. When he walked out of Viktor prison in 1990, he did not walk out bitter. He walked out ready, prepared by everything he had endured for the specific work that only he, with exactly the suffering he had carried, could do. Harriet Tubman suffered from severe neurological episodes her entire life, the result of a traumatic head injury inflicted on her during slavery. She suffered physically, constantly, in ways that most people would have found completely debilitating. And yet she made 19 missions into slave territory and freed more than 300 people. Her suffering did not disqualify her from her mission. Her suffering was the very thing that had built in her the specific fearlessness, the specific pain tolerance, the specific unwillingness to be stopped by difficulty that made her mission possible. The pattern is identical across every case. Suffering that prepares does not look different from suffering that punishes while you are in it. It only reveals its nature in what it produces. And what it produces in every documented case is a capacity, a depth, a specific and irreplaceable strength that no comfortable path could have built. Before we move into part 2, one question in the comments. One word. What has this season of suffering been building in you, even if you cannot yet fully see it? Just one word. Leave it below. Because there are thousands of people watching this right now carrying the same weight, and they need to know they are not carrying it alone. Before we enter part 2, I want to speak to you directly for just a moment. Creating this content, the research, the depth, the careful transmission of these truths takes an enormous amount of time and dedication. If this message has reached something real in you today, please consider supporting this work. You can scan the QR code on your screen right now, or find the support link in the pinned comment below. I have also prepared a free companion guidance PDF for this series, practical exercises that go deeper than what we can cover in the video alone. Download it using the link in the pinned comment. And if you are standing at a serious crossroads right now in your health, your career, your relationships, or your sense of purpose, and you need a personal, direct blueprint built specifically for your situation, my private video readings are open for you through the link in the description. Your support keeps this work alive, and this message reaching the people who need it most. Now part 2 is waiting, and what comes next will show you the exact neuroscience and psychology of how suffering prepares and how to actively cooperate with that preparation instead of simply enduring it. Let's keep going. Part 2. The science of being prepared through pain. Your suffering has a curriculum. It is not random. It is not cruel. It is not the universe making an example of you, or a force larger than yourself, demonstrating its indifference to your existence. It has a curriculum. A specific, structured, precisely sequenced set of lessons that are being built into you, whether you are aware of them or not, through every day of this season. And the difference between the people who emerge from suffering transformed and the people who emerge from it simply exhausted is not the intensity of what they went through. It is whether they showed up to the curriculum, whether they were present to what the suffering was actually teaching, or whether they spent the entire season fighting the classroom rather than learning what it contained. I am going to show you exactly what the curriculum looks like, at the level of your brain, at the level of your psychology, at the level of the specific capacities that and only suffering is capable of building in a human being. Let's begin. The neuroscience. What suffering does to your brain. In 2010, neuroscientist Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University published research that fundamentally changed how scientists understand the relationship between stress, suffering, and human neurological development. What McEwen's research revealed was a phenomenon he called stress inoculation, the documented neurological process by which exposure to significant adversity, when survived and processed, actually strengthens the brain's stress response systems in ways that make it resilient, more adaptive, and more capable of functioning under pressure than brains that have not experienced comparable adversity. In plain language, the brain that has been through serious suffering and survived it is neurologically stronger than the brain that has not. Not in every function, not in every way, but in the specific capacities that determine how a person performs when life becomes genuinely difficult. The ability to regulate emotion under pressure, to maintain cognitive function in the face of significant stress, to make clear decisions when the stakes are highest. In all of these capacities, the brain that has been through the fire is measurably more capable than the brain that has not. This is the neuroscience of preparation through suffering. Your brain right now in this season, under this weight, is being structurally strengthened in ways that will make you capable of things that the comfortable version of you could never have handled. The suffering is not happening to you. It is happening in you, building something that will only become fully visible when the season ends and the work that required it begins. Here is something I want you to genuinely consider. The version of you that exists on the other side of this suffering, the one who has carried this weight and not been destroyed by it, will be capable of things that the version of you before this season could not have imagined. Not because suffering is good, but because what it builds when you survive it is real. And real strength, unlike performed strength, does not collapse under pressure. It was built under pressure. The psychology. The 4 things suffering builds. Researchers Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, whose work on post-traumatic growth we referenced in an earlier video, identified 4 specific capacities that suffering builds in human beings that no other experience is capable of producing at the same depth. The first is authentic compassion. People who have genuinely suffered develop a quality of empathy and compassion for others who are suffering that people who have not suffered simply cannot replicate. Not because they are trying harder to be compassionate, but because they know from the inside, from lived experience, what it actually feels like to be in pain that no one around you understands. This is not a soft capacity. It is one of the most powerful tools a human being can possess, because it creates genuine connection, genuine trust, and genuine influence in a world full of people who feel profoundly alone in their pain. The second is unshakable clarity. Suffering strips away everything that is not essential. The things that seemed important before the social performances, the status games, the carefully constructed image become obviously irrelevant when you are in genuine pain. And what remains when all of that is stripped away is a clarity about what actually matters that comfortable people spend their entire lives trying to find through philosophy and meditation and self-help. and rarely do. You have been given that clarity by force. It is one of the most valuable things a human being can possess. The third is tested faith. Not faith in the naive sense, the easy, untested belief that everything will be fine because you want it to be. Tested faith, the kind that has been through the fire and is still standing. The kind that knows from actual experience rather than theory that it is possible to go through the worst and survive it. This kind of faith is unshakable in a way that untested faith never is, because it has already been tested, and it held. The fourth is gravitational authority. There is a specific quality that belongs to people who have genuinely suffered and genuinely survived. A weight, a depth, a gravity that other people feel in their presence without being able to name exactly what it is. It is the authority that comes not from credentials or titles or accomplishments, but from having been through something real and coming out the other side with your integrity intact. People are drawn to this authority. They trust it. They follow it. Because they can feel, without being told, that it was earned in a place that performance could never reach. These four capacities, authentic compassion, unshakable clarity, tested faith, and gravitational authority, are the curriculum of your suffering. They are being built in you right now, whether you can feel them forming or not. End of your story. It is the making of the person who will write the rest of it, and the rest of it built on everything this season is building in you will be the most powerful part. The architecture of preparation. What is actually happening here is the complete picture of what is happening in this season, laid out with full clarity. You are not being diminished by what you are going through. You are being densified. Every layer of comfort that is being stripped away is being replaced by something more solid. Every piece of your identity that is being tested is either breaking because it was never truly yours or holding. And what holds under this kind of pressure is the real thing, the irreducible core, the version of you that was always the foundation beneath the performance. The suffering is finding out what you are actually made of. And what it is finding in you, specifically, is more than you have given yourself credit for. Because you are still here. You are still watching, still searching, still refusing to accept that this season is the final word on your story. That persistent, undefeatable refusal to be defined by what you are going through is not stubbornness. It is not denial. It is the most important thing the suffering has revealed about you. And it is exactly the quality that the next chapter of your life will be built from. In part 3, the final and most practical part, I am going to give you 3 specific disciplines that will help you cooperate actively with your preparation. Not just survive this season, but emerge from it with everything it was designed to build in you, fully formed and ready to be used. Quick reminder before part 3, the free companion PDF for this series is in the pinned comment below. It contains the written exercises that go with everything we are covering, designed so you can do this work practically, not just listen to it. Download it now so it is ready when we finish. Part 3 is the most powerful part of this entire series. 3 disciplines, starting today. Let's finish this. Part 3, how to cooperate with your preparation. You made it to part 3, and I want to say something before we begin that with complete sincerity. The fact that you are still here, that you watched through 2 full parts of this series, tells me something specific about you that the suffering has not been able to take away. Your hunger for understanding is still intact. Your refusal to accept that this pain is meaningless is still intact. Your belief, however fragile it may feel right now, that there is something on the other side of this season worth building toward, is still intact. Those 3 things, your hunger, your refusal, your belief, are not small things. They are the exact raw material that everything the suffering has been preparing you for will be built from. In part 1, we established the truth. Not everyone who suffers is being punished. Some are being prepared. In part 2, we understood the neuroscience and psychology of what suffering actually builds in a human being. Now, in part 3, we are going to talk about how to actively cooperate with that preparation, so that when this season ends, You emerge, not just having survived it, but having received everything it was designed to give you. 3 disciplines. Let's build. Discipline 1. The Suffering Inventory. The first discipline is called the Suffering Inventory, and it begins with doing something that most people in pain instinctively avoid, looking directly at what the suffering is taking and what it is simultaneously building. Here is how it works. You take a piece of paper and you draw a line down the middle. On the left side you write, what this season is taking from me. On the right side you write, what this season is building in me. On the left side, be completely honest. Write everything. The energy it is taking, the relationships it has cost, the version of your future it has made unavailable, the time it is consuming, the joy it has temporarily displaced. Write it all. Do not minimize it. Do not spiritualize it prematurely. Just name it clearly and honestly. Then, and this is the discipline, fill in the right side with equal honesty. What patience has this built in you that you did not have before? What clarity has it given you about what actually matters? What compassion has it opened in you for people whose pain you previously could not fully understand? What strength have you discovered in yourself that you did not know was there until this season forced you to find it? What has this stripped away that, if you are honest, needed to be stripped away? Most people fill in the left side easily and leave the right side blank. Not because nothing is being built, but because what is being built is harder to see than what is being taken. It is quieter. It is slower. It does not announce itself the way loss does. The suffering inventory forces you to see both sides simultaneously, and when you see both sides, when you hold the full picture of what this season is taking and what it is building at the same time, the framework of punishment begins to lose its grip. Because punishment only takes. Preparation always builds something in exchange for what it takes. Do this once a week, every week of this season, and watch how the right side of the page grows. The most dangerous thing about suffering is not the pain itself. It is the story that the pain tells about what the pain means. Change the story, and you change what the suffering produces. Discipline 2. The Present Lesson Practice. The second discipline is called the Present Lesson Practice, and it is based directly on Viktor Frankl's insight that the framework you bring to suffering determines what it produces. Every single day in the morning, before the weight of the day fully lands, you ask yourself one question, and you write your answer. The question is this: what is this season specifically teaching me that I could not have learned any other way? Not what it is taking, what it is teaching. The answer will be different every day. Some days it will be about patience, the specific, active, non-passive patience of someone who is holding steady under pressure rather than simply waiting for it to end. Some days it will be about clarity, the things that have become obviously, undeniably important, in a way they never were before the suffering began. Some days it will be about strength, the specific discovery that you are capable of carrying more than you believed you were capable of carrying. Write the answer, every day, even when it is one sentence, even when the sentence is small, because what you are building over weeks and months of this practice is a documented record of the curriculum, a written account of everything this season is specifically, precisely, irreplaceably teaching you. And that record will become one of the most important documents you ever own, not because it explains the suffering, but because it proves in your own words, in your own handwriting, on the days when the evidence was hardest to find, that the suffering was never empty. It always had a lesson, and you showed up to receive it. Discipline 3. The Preparation Declaration. The third discipline is the most powerful and the most personal. It is called the Preparation Declaration, and you write it once in your own words, from your own experience, and you return to it every morning as the first thing you read before the day begins. Here is how you write it. You complete 4 sentences honestly, specifically, in the language that belongs only to you. The first sentence: the specific thing this season has taken from me that I have genuinely grieved is. The second sentence: the specific thing this season has built in me that I could not have built any other way is. The third sentence: the specific person or group of people who will benefit from what this season has built in me is. The fourth sentence: The specific thing I am going to do with what this season has prepared me for is 4 sentences, written with complete honesty. Without performing strength you do not yet feel, and without denying the strength that is genuinely there. This is your preparation declaration. It is not a denial of the pain. The first sentence makes sure of that you are not skipping the grief, you are naming it. But it is a refusal, a daily, deliberate, written refusal, to let the pain be the only thing this season produces. Read it every morning. Not as a performance of positivity, as a reminder of the full truth that this season is both taking something real and building something real simultaneously, and that the thing it is building is moving toward a specific person, a specific purpose, a specific contribution that only you, with exactly the suffering you have carried, are equipped to make. Before I close this series, I want to say something directly. I do not know what you have been through. I do not know the specific weight you are carrying or how long you have been carrying it. I do not know what the suffering has cost you or whether the cost feels remotely worth it from where you are standing right now. What I do know from the psychology, from the neuroscience, from the documented lives of every human being who has ever carried genuine suffering and come out the other side is this. The suffering that does not destroy you is always building something. Always. Not as a guarantee that the pain was fair, not as a justification for what you went through, but as a documented, consistent, repeating truth across the entire recorded history of human experience. The people who carried the heaviest weights and kept moving, who refused to be defined by what they were going through always, eventually arrived at a version of themselves and a contribution to the world that the comfortable path could never have produced. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. And what you are being prepared for is worth everything this season has cost. Hold on. If this series reached something real in you, if it gave a framework to something you have been carrying without one thing, think of one person in your life right now who is suffering and has convinced themselves it is punishment. Send them this. Not for the channel. For them. Because the right framework at the right moment does not just comfort a person in pain, it transforms what the pain produces. The free companion PDF, with all the written exercises for this series, is in the pinned comment below. Download it. The work continues there. Subscribe. Because the next chapter goes even deeper. I will see you in the next one.